Morning, students. We are going to see the last subtopic of Unit 5. The last subtopic, the 8 and 9, national financing and centrality of the national budget in leveraging other sources of finance, including private sector finance. Okay, we are going to talk about the national financing and the next one, the major streams of international climate finance. Okay, so coming to the central role of national financing. National financing mechanisms from the foundation for implementing effective climate change strategies within countries. Integration of climate objectives into national budget helps align environmental goals with long-term economic and social development plans. So, national financing, the budget they will announce actually, okay, based on the priorities, okay, what they want to control, okay, what they want to improvement for the nation needs, as well as how to mitigate the environmental impact due to anthropogenic activities. Integration of climate objective into national budgets help align environmental goals with the long-term economic and social development plans. Well-structured budget ensures that national funds can leverage international and private sector investments. This integration allows climate action to be mainstreamed into policy areas such as energy, agriculture, and infrastructure. Ultimately, national financing provides the policy and fiscal foundation for sustained mitigation and adaptation efforts. The importance of national policy framework. National policy frameworks act as a blueprint guiding climate financing decisions at the multiple levels of governance. They ensure coherence between the development priorities and the emission reduction commitment. Okay, so underline the word development priorities and emission reduction. Based on that, only the national government will allocate the money. Okay, for the to develop the for the development as well as the abate the environmental pollution. Such frameworks facilitate coordination among ministries, investors, and international donors. The integration within fiscal policies also improves transparency and accountability in climate-related spending. Countries that establish robust policy frameworks are better positioned to attract international support and private investments. So, like developing nations, the development priorities and emission reduction commitments, okay, based on that they will allocate the money. For however, when compared to developed nation, the developing countries will allocate only a very less amount comparative. So the energy policy as a driver of mitigation, energy policy plays a vital role in determining the national emission trajectories. Government must promote alternative energy sources such as solar, wind and bioenergy through targeted fiscal and regulatory policies. Between 2005 to 2030, investment exceeding $20 trillion in new energy infrastructure will shape the future greenhouse gas emissions. As per India stand, they want to go for a net zero emission carbon footprint by 2070. By 2030, they want to go for 45% of reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, especially in the level which has been found in the level in the year 2004. Okay, so 45% reduction at the what has been residing in 2004. Just imagine. Okay, almost 50% they are targeting for the reduction. Okay, so how much money they need to pump? What are the strategies they are following it? Okay, for achieving the 2030 target. Long-term energy planning ensures that the infrastructure lifespans are consistent with the low carbon development goals. Without sustainable energy policy reforms, mitigation targets cannot be realistically achieved. Underline the word realistically achieved. So even though it looks like for us 2070 is too long, almost we have 45 years to complete have a net zero emission. But just imagine, okay, realistic policies need to be framed and realistic targets supposed to be achieved. Okay, so just for the namesake, we should not tell the figures. Okay, so the policy integration in agriculture and water sectors, agriculture and water management policies are essential for addressing the climate induced vulnerabilities. National water policies must emphasize integrated water resources management and climate resilience. Agricultural frameworks should include land reform, R&D promotion, and financial incentives for sustainable practices. Climate resilient farming can be encouraged through subsidies for low emission technologies and efficient irrigation. Effective sectoral planning reduces vulnerability and enhances productivity, balancing economic growth and environmental protection. Infrastructure and health in climate policy. National infrastructure policies should embed climate adaptation measures in design standards, urban planning, and land use policies must prevent exposure to extreme weather events. Climate considerations are critical for transport, energy, and housing infrastructure investments. Okay, public health system must be strengthened to anticipate and manage climate-related health risks. Integrating climate resilience in infrastructure and health policies ensures long-term societal well-being and sustainability. So the policy instruments for leveraging private finance, governments can utilize diverse policy tools to mobilize private sector investment in climate action. Instruments include fiscal incentives, regulatory standards, and tradable permit systems. The choice of instrument depends on each country's economic context and institutional capacity. So, underline the word each country's economic context. So, the developed nation will pump a lot of money, whereas the developing and underdeveloped nation would unable to pump a lot of money on the infrastructure. I mean, the climate change. Okay, for building the resilience in climate resilience. Okay, so the effective instruments bridge the gap between the market-based and economically efficient mitigation potentials by reducing the investment barriers. Policy instruments attract significant private capital into sustainable projects. Regulation and standards in climate finance. The regulations are fundamental mechanisms to enforce emission control and promote green technologies. Examples include renewable portfolio standards, efficiency mandates, and emission caps. Standards create certainty for investors and encourage the adoption of cleaner production methods. Well-designed regulations can trigger technological innovation and reduce long-term mitigation costs. Mandatory standards ensure uniform progress towards emission reduction targets across all industries. Fiscal policies, coming to the taxes, charges, and incentives. Fiscal policies such as carbon tax and environmental levies internalize the cost of pollution. These instruments encourage industries to adopt cost-effective emission reduction measures. Government also use subsidies and tax credits to promote investment in renewable energy and energy efficiency. So, if you adapt renewable energy source for the production of electricity, okay, by a private sector, okay, obviously the government may give you subsidies and tax credits. Okay, while some incentives may increase the short-term cost, they accelerate the technology diffusion. Balanced fiscal policy design ensures that economic growth and environmental protection progress together. Okay, coming to the tax credit. Okay, when I was working as an intern, okay, during 2003 to 4 in Sipcad area in Asian Paints, okay, they are producing the electricity on their own. Okay, so the government has started to give a government what do you call that, the power supply from the things, okay, for the what do you call that, from the from their own generation. They ask the industry to generate their own electricity. Okay, so the coal-fired power plant boiler has been used in order to produce the electricity. Okay, the steam which has been produced coal-fired by a boiler will help you to produce the steam. That steam has been utilized in order to run the turbine. From the turbine, the electricity has been produced. Okay, so this is how they have carried out the electricity production, because the government has discharged the electricity to the industry, because they ask the industry to develop their own electricity. So government also gives subsidies and tax credit to promote investment in renewable energy and the energy efficiency. If they want to nowadays, the government, the industries want to go for renewable sources rather than their non-renewable sources. Okay, obviously the government will give a tax credit and subsidies. Voluntary agreements and stakeholder participation. Voluntary agreements between industries and government foster cooperative climate action. These agreements are politically appealing as they balance flexibility with accountability. They encourage industries to adapt best available technologies and transparent emission reporting. Stakeholder engagement under such frameworks increases awareness and social responsibility. In some cases, voluntary agreements lead to measurable emission reduction and improved corporate image. Understanding the carbon pricing mechanisms, very important. Carbon pricing is a critical tool to send a consistent signal to the markets about the cost of emission. It encourages innovation and investment in low carbon technologies. Model suggests that stabilization target around 550 ppm carbon dioxide equivalent aligned with the global price of US dollar 20 to 80 per ton by 2030. Okay, model suggests a stabilization target around 550 ppm carbon dioxide equivalent aligned with the global price of US $20 to 80 per ton, okay, by 2030. With the technological advancement, this price levels may reduce to $5 to $65 per ton by 2030. So right now by 2020, the technologies model suggests a stabilization target around with the global price, but by 2030 with the technological advancement, it may reduce, the cost may be reduced from US dollar 2080 to US dollar 5 to 65 per ton of carbon dioxide equivalent, what do you call it, treatment. Okay, so carbon pricing transforms investment flows towards sustainable energy and efficiency project worldwide. So the afforestation is necessary to control the carbon footprint. So we don't need a what do you call them, the high expensive methodology. Rather than that, we can go for use the carbon dioxide footprint to sink by afforestation or reforestation, or by avoiding or reducing the what you call the deforestation. Linking carbon pricing to national budgets. The national budget is essential in defining how carbon pricing revenues are used to drive the further climate action. Governments can recycle carbon tax revenues into renewable energy projects or social welfare programs. Government can recycle carbon tax revenues, okay, into renewable energy projects. So if you are emitting carbon, you need to pay, the tax has been applied on the industrialists, and they will, that money will be used for the pumping up to the renewable energy projects. Okay, so the transparent allocation of carbon revenues build public trust and political acceptance of such measures. So whatever the money they are charging, okay, it is used for a correct thing and is supposed to be transparent. Integrating carbon pricing within fiscal planning ensures that it complements the broader economic goals. Proper budget management turns carbon pricing from a postal mechanism into a tool for green development financing. Incentivizing research and development. Okay, so the research and development should be supported by the government in order to reduce these reduce the climate change. Okay, R&D funding is crucial for developing breakthrough technologies that reduce emission cost effectively. So the government has to fund a lot of money on the R&D sector in order to come out with a new technology, okay, to combat the climate change. Many national budgets currently underfund R&D in clean technology and climate innovation. And I would like to say, so because most of the time, even in developed nations, what they do, they will cut down the money for the R&D whenever the war comes. Okay, so imagine, okay, if they want to go, US is war, having a war with some country, obviously, or protecting some country from the war, okay, they will send their troops. Obviously, they will cut down this funding from the R&D sectors only. Okay, this need to be avoided. Public-private partnership can bridge the funding gap, encouraging industries to invest in green innovation. Governments should design tax incentives, grants, and venture capital schemes for clean R&D. Long-term research and development investment creates domestic technological capacity, reducing dependence on foreign technology imports. Coming to the investment shift for low carbon transition, returning carbon dioxide emission to 2005 level by 2030, okay, requires a massive global investment realignment. So carbon dioxide emission to 2005 level by 2030 requires a massive global investment in realignment. So, for example, 45%. So, as that of 2004, I told, right? So, here the statement is very clear what they are trying to say. They want to bring to the carbon dioxide emission to the 2005 level. Okay. So, retaining carbon dioxide emission to 2005 level by 2030 requires a massive global investment realignment. Traditional fossil fuel projects must give way to renewable energy efficiency, upgrade and electrification. Net additional investment needs could range from 5 to 10% depending on policy effectiveness. Well-designed national budget can help redirect private finance toward low carbon projects. The shift is both an environmental necessity and an economic opportunity for sustainable growth. Coming to the national level coordination mechanism, a effective national climate financing requires coordination between multiple government agencies, ministries of finance, energy, agriculture, and environment must align budgetary objectives. Establishing climate finance coordination units ensures consistency across departments. Such coordination prevents duplication of efforts and enhances the impact of sustainable fund. So this subdivision is about funding of national at the national level to curb the climate change. So what are the causes for the climate change and how to overcome this global climate change effect? Okay, so these are the things which we have seen. This is a financial sector which talks about how the government is planning. Okay, to for a sustainable nation. Okay, for sustainable ecosystem. Such coordination prevents duplication of efforts and enhances the impact of sustainable funds. Institutional coherence is critical for maximizing synergies between the adaptation, migration, and development goals. Coming to the engaging private sector in climate finance, the private sector plays a pivotal role, very important role in mobilizing the investment for low carbon development. National government can attract private capital by reducing the policy uncertainty and providing risk guarantees. Mechanisms like green bonds, blended finance, and public-private partnership are effective tools. Fiscal incentives encourages banks and investors to channel funds toward climate-smart projects. So, building investor confidence through predictable policies ensures sustainable private sector engagement. Coming to the fiscal incentives, I just try to explain what is fiscal incentives. Fiscal incentives are financial measures like tax breaks or subsidies used by government to encourage specific economic activities such as investment, research or export. These incentives are designed to give a financial advantage to businesses to stimulate growth and development in particular sectors or regions. Example of fiscal incentives, tax incentives, a government's taxation policy designed to encourage a specific economic activity by reducing the tax payments, tax holidays, tax deduction, accelerated depreciation. What is tax holidays? A temporary period where taxes are reduced or eliminated for a business. Tax deduction, a reduction in the amount of income subject to tax, such as a full write-off for certain research and development expenses. Accelerated depreciation allows business to deduct the cost of capital asset over a shorter period, often with a higher initial deduction. So the subsidies, the financial assistance provided by the government to help a business cover certain costs. Interest subsidies, a government subsidy to lower the interest rate on a loan, or capital subsidies, a grant or subsidy to help with the cost of setting up a business or acquiring the new equipment. Okay, or else the other incentives are grants or rebates will be given by the government. So the fiscal incentives are financial measures like tax breaks or subsidies used by the government to encourage specific economic activities, especially the green, I mean, what do you call it? So for such as investment, research, or export. These incentives are designed to give a financial advantage to business to stimulate growth and development in particular sectors or regions. So with this note, okay, I just go to the next slide. Public-private partnerships (PPP) in climate investment. So it's not always the public, the private could not able to afford all the things. So the government all need to also give a subsidies to, because in order to control the climate, okay, in order to have a sustainable environment. So the public-private partnership (PPPs) combines public funding with private innovation to scale up climate solutions. Governments provide the regulatory framework while private actors uh, deliver efficiency and technical expertise. PPCs are particularly effective in renewable energy, transport infrastructure, and waste management. Risk sharing modules under PPPs reduce financial barriers for private investors. Institutionalizing PPPs, public-private partnership in national policy, creates long-term momentum for climate-aligned investments. Coming to the challenges in mobilizing the private sector finance, major barriers include high perceived risk, lack of information, inadequate credit mechanisms. Many climate projects in developing countries struggle to access the affordable finance. So developing nation will be afford, so they may look for the fund from the global United Nations and things like that from the developing nations. Weak regulatory frameworks and insufficient data further limit the private participation. Addressing these challenges requires capability building, de-risking tools, and financial military programs. National governments must continuously adapt policies to attract and retain the climate investments. So the role of international support in national financing. So the government itself may look for the developing nation to support in terms of curbing the climate change. International assistance complements domestic efforts by providing technical and financial resources. Most of the developed nations may come forward, will give a technology in order to curb the pollutants, or in order to curb the greenhouse gas emissions, because it's not only affected their country, it also affects the world actually as a globe. Okay, so the developed nation must come forward, and most of the developed nations came forward already, okay, to have their technology in order to curbing the this type of greenhouse gas emissions. Grants, concessional loans, and technical aid can strengthen national climate finance systems. Multilateral funds such as GEF and GCF play an enabling role in policy implementation. Okay. International collaboration encourages knowledge and exchange and best practices adoption. Strong governance ensures that external funds aligned with national priorities are used effectively. Strengthening institutional capacities, strong institutions are necessary to design, implement, and monitor climate finance programs. Training government officials enhances the efficiency of financial resource allocation. Establishing transparent monitoring framework prevents misuse of climate funds. So when the people try to get their funds from the private sectors or even from the international thing, so this will not be misused. So we should have need a transparent monitoring framework. Underline the word transparent monitoring framework prevents the misuse of climate funds. Institutional development encourages investor confidence and ensures long-term policy consistency. Building institutional capacity is therefore a foundational step for effective national financing. Monitoring and evaluation in climate finance, tracking financial flow helps assess whether funds are achieving intended climate outcomes. So, if the fund has been used or routed into some other purpose or not, that also can be need to be verified. So, tracking is very important about the fund, okay, for whether it has been utilized for the targeted purpose or not. Monitoring systems ensure accountability, transparency, and performance-based allocation. So, and underlying word transparency, accountability, and performance-based allocation. Okay, so for monitoring system ensures these things, and the evaluation frameworks should include both quantitative metrics and the social impact. Integration of digital finance management system enhances the real-time data analysis. Proper M&E mechanisms improve resource efficiency and they attract further international support. Coming to the United Nations framework on Convention on Climate Change, okay, establish the global principles guiding climate finance obligations, Annexure 2 countries are required to provide financial resources to developing nations. These funds support both mitigation and adaptation measures as well as technology transfer. Coming to the aim of this is to promote the equitable climate action while addressing the capacity gaps. International finance mechanism ensure that developing countries can fulfill their environmental commitments. So this is all we are talking about the what you called the financing part. Okay, how we need to implement okay these things and how should it supposed to be how transform is supposed to be and so on and so forth. So coming to the annexure to country responsibilities in climate change. So what are the annexure two countries? Annexure in UNFCCC Climate Change Treaty, Annexure 2 can refer to the different list of countries depending on the context. Most commonly, the list of developed countries in the UNFCCC Climate Change Treaty, which includes OECD members, or the list of countries eligible for India's e-tourist visa scheme. Another context is the list of states that must ratify the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. So we will see as per the United Nations Framework Confederation, what are the Annexure 2 countries, what is the purpose. They are, these are the Annexure 1 parties that are members of the OECD Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development and are required to provide financial resources and technology transfer to the developing nation. The example the countries which have been lying on the Annexure 2 as per the United Nations Federation, okay, United Nations Framework on Convention on Climate Change, okay, the Australia, Canada, Germany, in Japan and the United States. Okay, so hope you understood the importance. Okay, so they are coming under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So this includes direct funding, concession loans, and technology transfer initiatives. Support assists developing countries in preparing national report and climate strategies. Financial contribution must align with the principle of common but different responsibilities. The fulfillment of this obligation enhances the global trust and cooperation in climate governance. So international cooperation of cost reduction, collaborative global action significantly reduce the total cost of the climate mitigation. So rather than having one nation to go, so just have a collaborative environment and then the global action significantly reduces the total cost of climate mitigation. So sharing technology and sharing cost and sharing knowledge enhance the cost effectiveness and accelerate the emission reduction. So international finance facilitates joint country programs that maximize the environmental benefits. Okay, cooperation reduces duplication of efforts and promote efficient allocation of resources. Such coordination is important for achieving the global emission standardization targets and minimum cost. So, coming to the Kyoto Protocol, market-based mechanisms. The Kyoto Protocol introduced flexible mechanisms to reduce emission costs globally. This include the clean development mechanisms, joint implementation, and emission trading. This we have seen elaborately in the previous classes. Market mechanisms allow developed nations to meet reduction target costs effectively. They also generate financial flows to developing countries, supporting sustainable development. Such systems create global linkages between investment, technology, and emission. So, as a whole, we need to transfer the technology, we need to share the knowledge, and we need to what you call share the cost. Okay, so because these things is very important, and we need to overcome the what you call then only we can do a mitigating of climate change, mitigation of climate change. Okay, the clean development mechanism allows developed nations to invest in emission reduction projects in developing countries. The certified emission reduction units, which can be traded, okay, that we have trading carbon trading that we have seen in the last lecture as well. Okay, the CDM projects promote technology transfer, sustainable development, and capacity building. The CDM simultaneously support environmental integrity and economic growth in host nations. Coming to the financial flow through clean development mechanism projects, clean development mechanism projects which is coming under the what is called the Kyoto Protocol, okay, which facilitate direct financial transfers from Annexure 1 to Annexure non-Annexure 1 countries. So Australia, US are all Annexure 1 countries. Okay, so the transfer from annexed one to non-annexed countries. The revenue is generated through the scale of certified emission reduction on global carbon markets. Such flows encourage clean technology adoption in developing economies. India's renewable sector alone could generate over US dollar of 180 million annually via clean development mechanism. Thus, clean development mechanisms strengthen both financial and technological linkages in climate collaboration. Adaptation funding under the CDM, a portion of CDM proceeds is allocated for adaptation initiatives in vulnerable countries. These funds address the administrative costs and adaptation needs of at least developed nations. The adaptation fund under the Kyoto Protocol channels such revenues. Okay, this mechanism ensures equity by directing support to nations most affected by the climate impact. Coming to the joint implementation mechanisms, JA allows developed countries to implement emission reduction projects jointly. Okay, so that they can do a carbon trade-off. Okay, the participants share emission reduction units generated from such projects. Joint implementation (JI) enhances flexibility, cost efficiency for industrialized countries. It builds cooperation in technology exchange and sustainable project design. By fostering collaboration, JI strengthens global partnership for achieving emission goals. Activities implemented jointly AIJ. Okay, AIJ served as a pilot phase both for the formal JA mechanism was introduced. Okay, it enabled countries to gain practical experience in joint project implementation. Coming to the role of multilateral financial institutions such as World Bank, ADB, United Nations um, plan, Development Program are vital players in climate finance. Okay, so they are giving funding from the international thing to all the developing or underdeveloped nations in order to curtail the climate change. They provide concessional loans, grants, subsidies, technical assistance for climate projects. Multilateral banks help integrate climate priorities into national development strategies. Their participation ensures long-term stability and capacity building in recipient nations. Collaboration with such institutions enhances project credibility and investor confidence. Coming to the role Global Environment Facility (GEF), Global Environment Facility was established in the year 1991 to support environmental climate program globally. It funds projects in areas like biodiversity, land degradation, and renewable energy. GEF, the Global Environment Facility, provides grants to developing nations to support low carbon transition. In India, GEF has supported projects such as fuel cell, bus demonstration, and solar programs. So the GEF is a global environment facility. Okay, a partnership that provides grants and financing to developing countries for projects aimed at protecting the global environment. The GEF functions as a financial mechanism for major international environmental conventions and support initiatives related to biodiversity, climate change, international waters, land degradation, and chemicals and waste. The GEF, the Global Environment Facility, helps countries meet global environmental goals through various projects such as sustainable land management, clean energy, and climate adaptation. The key aspect of Global Environment Facility, okay, is a large partnership and the world's largest funder of projects to improve the global environment. The financial mechanism, it is a financial mechanism for several international environmental conventions, including United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, the UN National Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the Minamata Convention on Mercury. So the project focus on it provides GEF Global Environment Facility GEF Global Environment Facility. Okay, it provides funding for projects in 6 key areas: biological diversity, climate change, international waters, land degradation, chemicals and waste. So the collaboration, GF works with a large network of civil society organizations, the private sector, and implementing agencies like United Nations Environment Environment Program, okay, and the World Bank. So the operations GF provides grants and concessional financing to developing countries and countries with economics in transition to help them meet the agreed upon incremental cost of projects that deliver global environmental benefits. So the examples of work: climate change, land degradation, and international waters. So the Global Environment Facility (GEF) provides grants to developing nations to support low carbon transition. In India, GEF has supported projects such as fuel cell, bus demonstration, and solar programs. It remains one of the oldest and most influential climate finance mechanisms worldwide. Government Environment Facility, sorry, Global Environment Facility. So coming to the development bank and on funding agencies, regional and international banks contribute heavily to global climate finance. The Asian Development Bank and the World Bank finance clean energy and resilience projects. Collaborative funding strengthens national energy security and emission reduction targets. United Nations Development Program partnerships provide technical support for project design and monitoring. These agencies ensure that financing aligns with both national and global sustainability agendas. The priority areas for international funding: funding agencies prioritize regions with severe data gaps or climate vulnerability. North Africa and Sahel face urgent adaptation challenges, requiring focused finance. Support for hydrological data systems and early warning networks is emphasized. International funds also address human-induced degradation in fragile ecosystem. Targeted funding ensures equitable resource distribution and effective impact delivery. So it is all self-explanatory. So hope you understood so far what has been covered. So we are going to cover the complete the fifth unit. Okay. So we try to start to read the unit 2, 3, sorry, unit 3, 4, and 5 for the Part 2 exam. So which is very close. Okay. So we have another 3 to 4 days only. Okay. So we have exam on 16th, I believe. Okay. The circular has been already circulated. Please try to complete read of the theory of unit 3, unit 4, and unit 5 because they are theoretical paper. Okay, and given examples. Okay, and the data are very important. Okay, when you try to explain for a question or for a question. Okay, so coming to the mobilizing incremental cost financing. Incremental cost financing covers additional expenses of adapting low carbon technologies. It bridges the financial gap between conventional and green investments. Multilateral funds help developing nations absorb this higher upfront cost. Such support makes clean energy projects financially viable and scalable. Mobilizing incremental cost finance accelerate the global transition to sustainable technologies. Coming to the green climate fund. So like what we have seen in previous case, okay, the funding from the World Bank, Asia Bank, and things like that. The Green Climate Fund is established under the United Nations Framework on Convention on Climate Change. The GCF Green Climate Fund is the largest dedicated climate finance mechanism. Okay, so it aims to mobilize almost $100 billion annually from public and private sources. Okay, the GCF, the Green Climate Fund, supports mitigation and adaptation projects in developing nations. It emphasizes country ownership and direct access modalities for implementation. GCF Green Climate Fund drives large-scale transformation towards resilient and low-carbon economics. So, like GCF is also a large dedicated climate finance mechanism. Let me explain. I will elaborately explain what is Green Climate Fund now. So the Green Climate Fund is a fund for climate finance that was established within the framework of UNFCCC. Is a fund for climate finance that was established within the framework of UNFCCC, considered the world's largest fund of its kind. GCF, the Green Climate Fund, objective is to assist developing countries with climate change adaptation and mitigation activities. The GCF is an operating entity of the financial mechanism of the UNFCCC. It is based in the South Korea. it is governed by a board of 24 members and supported by the Secretariat. So, the Green Climate Fund supports projects and other activities in developing countries like India using thematic funding windows. It is intended that Green Climate Fund be a centerpiece of effort to raise climate finance under the UNFCCC. These are the four other smaller multilateral climate funds for paying out money in climate finance, which are coordinated by the UNFCCC. This include Adaptation Fund, the Least Developed Countries Fund, the Special Climate Fund, and the Global Environment Facility (GEF), Global Environment Facility. The GCF is Green Climate Fund is the largest of these five funds. So when compared to the Global Environment Facility Fund, okay, the GCF is the largest of these five funds. As of December 23, GCF has a portfolio of 13.5 billion US dollar. The process of designing the GCF has raised several issues. This includes ongoing questions on how funds will be raised and the role of the private sector, the level of country ownership of resources, and the transparency of the board itself. Also, this additional international climate institution might further fragment taxpayers' money that is put towards the climate action. Okay, so the Green Climate Fund is the largest fund of all the funds available for the mitigation of climate change. So, hope you understood the what are the funds which are available. Okay, in the international level, bilateral climate finance initiatives. Many developed countries provide direct bilateral climate finance to developing nations. Such funding is often tailored to national priorities and local contexts. Examples include Germany International Climate Initiatives and Japan's JCMs. The bilateral support complements multilateral efforts by addressing the niche needs. This partnership strengthens diplomatic relations and foster technology cooperation. Coming to the emerging trends in climate finance is shifting toward performance-based and blended finance models. Integration of digital platform ensures transparency and traceability of funds. So, digital platform is very essential for a transparency. Even in India, even inside Tamil Nadu, the people are moving towards the digital platforms. Okay, for this thing. For example, what is called annual income certificate or what is called cash certificate or birth certificate. Everything is become digitalized, right? So the integration of digital platform ensures the transparency and traceability of the funds. Private capital mobilization through green bonds and ESGs investing is growing rapidly. Okay, so innovative instruments such as debt for climate swaps are gaining traction. Further, climate finance will emphasize resilience, inclusion, and data-driven accountability. Okay, using equity and access in climate finance, we have few more slides. Okay, so with this we could be able to complete the unit 5. The ensuring the equitable access to climate funds remains a persistent challenge. Least developed and small island nations often face procedural and institutional barriers. Simplified access mechanisms can improve participation and impact delivery. Gender sensitive and socially inclusive finance frameworks promote justice and fairness. True climate finance equity lies in recognizing the historical responsibility and current vulnerability. So we don't have much actually, it's a self-explanatory, all the words are self-explanatory. Hope you understood. If you have any doubt during the phase 2 phase section, if it is needed, explain especially for discussing about the financing at the national level and the international level in order to curb the climate change or for the mitigation. Okay, so how to approach, what are the funds which are available. Okay, these are the things we are supposed to know. Okay, aware of it. And strengthening governance of climate finance. Transparent governance ensures effective and corruption-free utilization of climate funds. Okay, so transparency. Every time they say transparency, going to a digital digitalization. Okay, this all try to curb the corruption. Okay, accountability mechanisms should be embedded with both national and international frameworks. Independent audits and citizen participation enhance public trust. Good governance attracts investors by ensuring policy predictability. Ultimately, governance quality determines the success and sustainability of climate financing initiatives. Coming to conclusion of the subdivision of 8th and 9th of 5th unit, national budgets, private investments, and international support together form a comprehensive climate finance ecosystem. So we have seen what are the funds which are available, how this has been framed, and what for it has been framed. What are the difficulties, okay, in getting that fund, particular fund. Okay, so that all we have seen. So effective integration across these levels ensures steady progress toward climate goals. Countries must focus on capability building, transparency, and innovation in financial design. Coordinated global efforts can unlock trillions in sustainable investments. The future of climate finance depends on strong national leadership backed by the global solidarity and private participation. So, with this note, okay, we have completed the global climate change unit. I mean, the all the 5 units. Okay, thanks for listening. And moreover, please concentrate on your FAT 2. All the students have did well actually for the FAT 1, but you had only 2 units for the FAT 1. Now we have 3 units, unit 3 and 4 and 5. So please try to concentrate. Okay, and then because of the what is called these copyright issues. Okay, so I didn't copy some of the what you call figures. I mean the schematic representation or videos I didn't put here. Okay, so please try to look into the website and try to as it is a blended learning course. We have 15 hours of what you call self-learning times are available. Please watch that type of videos and the schematic representation, how the how this system works. Okay, especially to curb the climate change. Okay, climate change and so on and so forth. What I'm trying to say is that please concentrate on your studies and try to explore more things apart from what has been covered from my side. Okay, with this note, I thank you everyone for actively participating in this course. Okay, from start from the beginning until now. Thank you very much.